Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
How are you guys?
Man,
Yeah.
crazy week, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty bog standard for me. I haven't really done anything special.
It's been, I'm getting ready to run a race this coming weekend. So,
How long is this one?
this is
Marathon?
This is a half marathon. So, yeah, another 13.1.
Oh, just going to check it off.
Knock it out and hope to finish it in about 2
Humble brag.
2 hours. And
I was going to say 2 days.
2 hours, and then I'll be good to go.
How many of those do you do a month?
Well, I don't really run a month. I mean,
Okay.
I'll probably will do this year. I think I have 3 half marathons I'm doing this year.
Oh, okay. So it's
Most of the time, I'm
yearly
a
thing than a monthly thing.
I'm a 3 to 5 mile type runner.
Okay.
But these races, it's like I'm doing this one this coming week. I'm going on a vacation race in September to Tennessee.
Whoa.
So I'm gonna do one there, and then I'm doing the St. Jude
Fun.
Okay.
half marathon.
Cool.
So I haven't done that one in a while, and that is probably one of the more rewarding
Oh, yeah.
runs that you can do, because as you're running, you run through, and all these kids are out there cheering you on that are
that's super
receiving these
cool.
cancer treatments.
wow.
So it is an incredible environment. It moves you.
I bet.
So I'm looking forward to it this year.
It's things like that. You can give and you can do all these things that feel kind of disconnected in a way, but it's moments like that that really make it real.
Mm-hmm.
All what maybe little impact you have, it makes it all tangible.
Almost instant gratification.
You know,
It
in
makes
a way.
it just tangible.
You
Not
think
even-
you have it bad until you go to that,
Right,
and
like,
see
no.
what them little kids are dealing with, and
Yikes.
it kind of really brings it all back into focus really quick.
I bet.
Right. Wow.
So,
Man.
but yeah, so it's gonna be it'll be fun.
I bet.
So I got a little feedback on one of our past episodes. Jason had read a comment off of Facebook, and someone thought that maybe we were victim blaming on this, and I wanted to throw that at you, Jason, because I know that's not why you read it or how you read it, but would you like to clarify that?
Well, first I want to tell all our listeners that I apologize if I've offended anybody by reading that comment. That actually was not my comment. I was actually reading a comment someone else had posted. With any tragedy, while we have to kind of deal with the aftermath of what happened, the hope is that we learn something from it,
Okay.
that we can actually hopefully prevent that from happening in the future. And so I will always feel that people have to take precautions.
And this guy got blasted.
And this guy got
for
blasted
that, right?
for saying something that every daddy would probably tell their daughter before they leave the house. And I understand in today's charged environment how the emotions get really high, and you're quick to kind of look at one angle of something and kind of lose the larger picture.
Right.
And I really think that I hope that our listeners maybe think about certain things and say, how can I take some precautions to prevent that from possibly happening to me? And if we get people to think that way and we prevent something, and I think that's a victory.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the point of my comment
Right.
was that we have to look at ways to prevent tragedy.
Well, you also, I'm sorry, come on.
I was going to say, the only thing I was going to say was to kind of back up what you were saying, is that we're not saying that the the victim in this scenario was 100% to blame.
No.
At all, by any means.
No blame.
And no blame. But we were just saying that for people that are out there that are also in potentially similar situations, hopefully this is one of those moments where you can look into your own life and go like, okay, there are some decisions that I can make that can potentially protect myself from ending up in a very similar scenario. So that's what we were saying in that.
Right, yeah.
And there's little things that we can do. Situational awareness. I come from a background of private sector protective services, and you live in this world. I'm a free person. I want to be able to do and go and as long as I'm not hurting somebody else, I should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we live in a world full of wolves who their life where they live is in our complacency and our convenience. And that's where they operate. And they're waiting for us to be complacent. They're waiting for us to let our guard down. They're waiting for us to do things that they can take advantage of. And so maybe what are some things we could do, small things, big things that we could do to maybe prepare ourselves for? I carry a wallet. It's a fat wallet. I've got no money in it, no credit cards in it. Nothing of value is in that wallet. So if you actually get the upper hand on me and you go to rob me, I'm going to give you my wallet and I'm going to peace out on you. And all my stuff is not in that wallet. And it sounds cornball, but how many people are getting robbed right now?
There's a lot of people getting robbed right now.
You know, and then it's little things like when you lock your car. There's a I don't want to use the name of it, but there's a large store type, bulk store arena, where wholesale where they have gas pumps, and there's actually 3 lanes between the pumps. You can have 2 cars right next to the pump, and there's a drive-through lane between there. And what thieves are doing is they're taking their car and they're driving. Everybody gets out. They open your passenger door or your opposite, your driver door, and they're taking your purse, your wallet,
and they're gone.
And they're gone before you can even think. So when you get out to pump your gas, lock your car. Do little things that can help protect you from being a victim.
I would say awareness. There's so many people with their head in their phone now that they just lose sight of what's going on around them. And that's what I'm saying. These people out here that want to take advantage of you, if you give them a shot to do it,
they're going to do it.
They're going to do it. And that's what I'm saying. We have to think in that way. I know people don't want to walk around paranoid. And that's really what it kind of goes against the grain of what we are. We don't want to operate in that environment, but we have to, unfortunately, in today's world.
I feel like I ride the line between that because I hear what you're saying. I characteristically will always assume the best in people, almost to my own detriment in some way. I always believe that again, people can be good, but I also have awareness to know what situation that I'm in.
Sure.
And that's where I wouldn't live my life saying that I'm paranoid, like to go out of my house and to go somewhere. But I also know at least my local area well enough where I'm like, I know generally where I feel safe. Now, obviously, anything can happen. I'm not saying that by me feeling safe here doesn't mean that I can't also get robbed or jumped or whatever you want to consider it. But I do feel like I am taking some precautions where I'm not living a life where I'm paranoid, but I am making some decisions knowing that, like, okay, if something is to happen, I do have some understanding of this situation around me where I'm not just like, bumbling around, but
okay.
And
or not aware, but
And sometimes you some people have a kind of a sense about that kind of stuff, and and sometimes you got to listen to your gut.
And you know what? That's evolutionary.
Yeah, it is
It's
evolutionary. That's what
fear is a response that has taken and protected us and helped us and make smarter decisions. Like, oh, don't go over there. That's not a good thing.
Right.
And
right,
it helps
don't go mess with this wild animal.
Right.
Don't that thing slithering on the ground. Don't mess with it because it might bite you, and it's
Right.
and it's killed people in the past. So we don't have to fool around with that. So yeah, all these things are evolutionary based. That we have this innate feeling about certain things that say, something ain't right with this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to listen to that. And to kind of casually disregard that, I just think that's just foolishness.
Does anybody have any thoughts or ideas of some things we can do to kind of either be more aware or to help us protect ourselves?
I think that obviously convenience always feels like the best option, but sometimes it's, how do you put this? It's not. Sometimes the most convenient thing probably isn't always the best option. I guess is the best way to put it. It's okay to have to go out of your way a little bit if that's it's life is riddled. Your day is riddled with decisions, whether it be good or bad decisions. So the fact that you stay in a place where you feel unsafe, that is a decision in and of itself. Even though you probably do or don't have the capability of leaving, I understand that there's a lot of circumstances, but still, there is a way to work towards, making a different decision and, living in a place or being in a place where you feel safe and that kind of stuff. And I know that it's hard, but again, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would think just some things that I've kind of read about and just seen on the news and just, these experts get on TV and tell you,
right.
These are some practices to follow. I mean, it's like getting gasoline and, get gas during the daytime.
Right.
In a well-populated area.
I have a fun fact for you. The average human makes 35,000 decisions a day.
Jeez.
Just little things built up throughout the whole day. And there's people out there waiting to take advantage of one of those.
That's a lot.
If you think about it, do I go here? Do I take an extra step here? Do I back up here? Do I turn here? Do I do that? Everything that we do, everything that we say, we're making a decision on it.
I think also another big factor too, which we don't have to get into this, but I think it is a very important thing to consider is the people you surround yourself with as well. If you surround yourself with people that are also like nefarious, no good people, like obviously that's going to be something that like you're going to find yourself in more situations like, I feel unsafe. And it's like, oh yeah, because the people you're surrounding yourself with are not inherently safe people. You know what I'm saying? So but if you surround yourself with people that are probably aware or that take precautions,
that have your back,
that have your back, have awareness about situations,
right.
you will probably hypothetically find yourself in situations where you probably will feel safer or you'll feel more, at least aware of your surroundings or what's happening.
I have this great background on my computer. That's this, there's 8 or 9 lions, massive, intense lions, and they're all looking in the same direction. And it says, surround yourself with people that are on the same mission as you. And it's just this intense picture. Whoever took this photograph, number one, all the lions are looking at you.
It was like the perfect shot.
Yes, and and so somebody captioned it with this, and it's absolutely insane. But I mean, like little things, like when you're pulling up to a red light. Now, because of the way people drive and humanity has left the building, everybody's trying to cut you off and trying to cut in. And where you used to be able to leave a car length and a half and people would leave you alone, now if you got 6 inches, but they're going to cut you off and merge and run you off the road. But when you're pulling up at a red light, how much room do you leave? Do you pull up behind the car in front of you close enough to where nobody can cut you off? Or do you leave enough room if you see a couple of people getting out of a car about to rob you or carjack you that you can get out of the situation? Is that too far of being aware, or is that one of the things that we need to be looking at? Get off your phone at the red light. Don't be on your phone. Don't be looking down. Number one, you're causing traffic to take longer because your response time is not there. So now you're creating someone's road rage behind you because you didn't leave when they thought you were supposed to. Again, that's their decision. That's your decision. What are some things that we can do to protect ourselves or just get through life and not become a victim?
Well, I would think also just awareness, but like, for example, you're walking to your car, have your keys in a position that you can utilize those keys as a defense mechanism if you should get attacked.
So make a fist and have some of the keys
Exactly.
poking through your fingers there.
Exactly.
That's a good idea.
That's that was one of the things I read, and I've kind of seen those in safety presentations
Sure.
and stuff like that. But don't go to an ATM machine in an isolated area.
Right.
If you can go maybe into a grocery store.
Right. Or again, like you said, I mean, like obviously I know if it's late at night, like there's some things have to get done when they get done, but it's also like, like we said, if you could get some done during the daytime in a populated area, sometimes, I mean, again, anything can happen, but sometimes,
and
it's a little.
Yeah, I would also, I would, this is another one and this is something, I don't believe in debit cards.
Really? I don't believe in cash.
I don't believe in debit cards. Credit card is fine because
I see what you mean.
Fraudulent purchase on the credit, you're not responsible for.
You're right.
But if somebody wipes your checking account out,
you're out of luck.
You're out of luck. Mm-hmm. That's what I tell people all the time. Well, I got my debit card. I'm like, why are you using a debit card? The only thing a debit card should be used for is to go to the ATM machine. That's it. It should be a credit card.
I've never actually heard this hot take. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I'm just telling you.
I've never heard.
I mean,
this
it's
before.
true. I mean, if card should get compromised, would you rather the credit card company have to deal with it, or you have to deal with it?
Yeah,
because basically the debit card is only a check.
Exactly.
That's all it is, and they're not going to back that up. If somebody steals your money, oh well, you shouldn't have wrote that check. Technically,
exactly. Yeah, that's what I tell people. So all our listeners out there, I'm telling you,
get
away from using debit cards. Use a credit card.
There you go.
I know that kind of maybe flies in the face of like proper budgeting
or
and
convenience.
Responsibility.
Here we're talking about convenience. Here it's very convenient.
Well, I mean, credit cards are convenient.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah,
probably once upon a time it wasn't.
Now,
well, they're convenient until you get that 3% or 4% fee.
Well, yeah,
or 29.87 interest rate.
I don't understand why. I mean, now someone that has a spending problem, I can see how a credit card could be abused. Mm-hmm. Whereas a debit card, you're limited by the amount of money in your account.
Once it's zero, you're in.
So I think maybe a lot of people use debit cards because maybe they have that tendency of being irresponsible with credit.
I wouldn't say that I'm irresponsible, but I am guilty of that in a certain way. For me, it does feel, at least in my mind, mentally, I know that I look at my debit card as like my pool of money that I can spend from, and my credit card is usually things that I will finance. I will buy a bigger purchase and then we'll pay it off as I go. It's kind of how I look at that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Or I will go buy like a bunch of groceries and stuff and get some rewards for a credit card, and then we'll pay it off immediately or whatever. So I look at it differently. I never actually seen it from the perspective that you're saying, that like you can just go ahead and use the credit card and then pay
as long as the credit card is paid off
at
the end of every month.
It
is basically a debit card.
You're right. Mm-hmm. Smart.
And it's safer.
Right. You're right.
Well, so, I kind of like how we brought this down to just kind of the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis.
Well, because that's
and one of our.
I thought that was pretty good.
One of our guest hosts, one of our better listeners, and my better half actually suggested for our topic today, Miranda, hey baby, she said, and this is kind of a decision, would you volunteer to leave the earth with aliens? And she asked if we could do that for the topic tonight, since we were kind of light on topics right now, since we've had so many heavy ones that we kind of wanted to do.
She just watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I don't know, but she really liked the Aliens
that was a great
episode
movie,
we
by
did.
the way.
Yeah. She actually liked our Final Frontier one. and she liked the one we just did. Was it last week that just dropped?
Oh man, I was
Great Filter. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart.
I've slept since then.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that episode.
yes,
I did
a
too.
lot of people did.
I actually read a good book for that episode. It was really very informative. I didn't really know much about the Great Filter until we decided to do that topic.
You're
Ian
welcome.
came up with that.
Thank you,
one.
Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
My knowledge has increased.
Right. I'm glad.
And so has our listeners.
Yes.
Thank
And
you
we
all.
got some really good responses back on that one too. So, okay, guys,
Here we go.
would you leave with aliens if they came and said, "Hey, you can come with us for a while"?
Yeah, well, for a while. Are you talking
There's
about
a lot of clarifying questions I have.
That's forever, because the idea of leaving, that would be awfully tempting. I mean, I hate to say that.
Why?
But that
Why
would
do you
be
hate to
very
say it? If it's tempting, it's tempting.
Because it makes you think, well, you're leaving behind those that love you, and it's like kind of selfish in a way.
Well, Ian brought up in The Final Frontier the time dilation between shooting back and forth to Mars. That's just a couple seconds. But time dilation to heading to the other side of the Milky Way is probably a little bit bigger. By the time you could go there and come back, everybody you know is going to be dead.
It's going to be a lot of people.
Scary.
I forget what the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Milky Way is 100,000 light years across,
I can't even
I
comprehend.
mean, and light. I don't have all my notes now from last week's episode, 'cause I had all that written down.
And listeners, I would like you to understand, this is the first week that Jason has not shown up with a stack of research about 4 inches.
I wouldn't say the first. Give him some credit.
I like to be prepared.
Right. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I like to be prepared.
Well, we want to give our listeners some good information, but this one's just about us, and maybe they could reach out to us. And would y'all leave? Ian,
No.
you would.
My gut reaction, if I couldn't ask any clarifying questions, if you just want me to answer the question, no. But if I could ask, I mean,
What would be the top 3 conditions that could be met for you to actually go?
I mean, if I had like a certain amount of time, if I could potentially, if they could come down here, pick me up, and we'd be gone for like 2 months, and again, I come back and like my life is not completely gone because of time dilation or whatever the cause may be. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. Is if I could go, to somewhere like that, maybe I could consider it, because then I could potentially I could have some fun, could go like on a little quote unquote hypothetical vacation or something to go see life outside of the earth for a while, come back with some crazy stories, maybe some pictures, but I think the idea that is holding me back is coming back. If that question can't get answered, if I'm going to come back or if I'm never going to come back, or how that's going to, if that variable changes to you may never come back or life may be different by the time you come back, I'm like, ooh, see, I'm kind of happy right now. So if I leave and then potentially never come back, I am I'm happy with my life right now. You know what I'm saying?
How about if they gave the conditions and they said, okay.
Oh man, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go, and all of a sudden something happens, and you come back, and it's 300 years
then
later.
I'm going to wreak some havoc on some alien species, and
I don't know if
Right.
don't know if you've seen the original Planet of the Apes.
I've not.
One of my favorites.
I'd be willing to bet you have.
One of my favorite
and
movies.
I'm saying this, ladies and gentlemen, the Aftermath podcast
no,
by
stop.
Ian. They watch movies
Yeah.
and then they talk about them together. This must be on that list.
Okay.
But the original trip in the Planet of the Apes in space, they left for 6 months and traveled 700 years into the future.
Damn.
So, I mean, I don't know if they use some math equation to come up with that, or if that's just the writer wrote that.
Right.
But that's a little fun fact.
They got caught in a time warp.
Some time warp, something.
storm
Yeah.
or
Right.
something happened.
Regardless, that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why if we have to go by gut feeling, it's gonna be no. Because I don't know. Because we can get caught in a time storm, and then before you know it, we're 700 years in the future or whatever the heck it was. You know what I'm saying? Or like you're saying, I could get they could pull one over on me, and they're like, surprise, you're stuck with us now,
and
for
you're just
whatever.
a snack.
And I'm just, well, either that or I'm a test subject, or again, let's say hypothetically I do have like a fighting chance. I mean, how many? I'm going to be outnumbered. You know what I'm saying? So like, even if let's say we're equal physiological, or like if we're equal builds, how many aliens can I take? 3, 4, maybe, who knows? And then I'm, who knows? So that's why there's a lot of hypotheticals in my scenario. I feel like in a perfect world, if we could just go jaunt around the galaxy for a minute and come back and life be kind of as it is, even if we go out and it's like, let's say a year in the future, we're kind of like tiptoeing on like, oh, it's a little bit too much for me. But even then I'd still be like, potentially it could be fun. We could have some fun with that.
Okay. What about you? What would it take for you to go, Jason?
It probably wouldn't take a whole lot. Just the idea of seeing the universe,
right?
Would be very, very tempting for me. I've always been fascinated with the stars and the sky when I walk outside and look.
Right.
I mean, the other night I walked outside and it was just for whatever, there was a perfect clarity in the sky. And at first I looked up, I only saw 2 bright stars. As a matter of fact, I believe it was Venus and Jupiter.
Yeah, they were very close in the sky.
They were very close.
Yes, they were very close.
But after I stayed out there for like 5 minutes, it seemed like the sky just lit up for me. I saw a ton of stars. They just like appeared. It was the weirdest thing. And I just help but wonder. I mean, just the vastness of space.
Oh yeah.
And what's out there? What alien landscapes that it would be a once in a lifetime opportunity. Now, granted, if I know I'm going to be lunch for some alien, no. I mean, of course, that's a given, but I would hope by once, in essence, contact would be made, that there was some kind of understanding that, I want you to see where we're from.
Right.
I mean, I would jump on that in a heartbeat. I mean, I really would. And
wasn't that one of the stipulations for? Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Is for Avatar, like the world Pandora. It was so far away from Earth that like you can't really come back, or something. You have to be cryogenically frozen or something like that. I forgot what it was. It's one of those things where like we can go see their planet, but we have to be like frozen. And then,
well, there's been a couple of movies out that kind of address, humans leaving
Alien.
the planet, that humans leaving the planet and having to. What was the one that I saw? Was called Passengers.
Okay.
Passengers was a good movie.
I never saw that, but I heard it was crazy.
That touched on that. But yeah, you would need to somehow slow the aging process, simply because unless you could somehow perfect faster than light travel.
Right.
I mean, that would be the only way. I mean, just our understanding of physics and the laws of the universe we'd have to come up with some truly extraordinary
hear me out,
new
guys.
Technology.
4th dimension travel. I'm kidding. Just another plane of existence.
Time?
I just was saying.
Yeah.
I've heard that like I heard recently.
Time, space, time.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or I was saying like I heard someone say that it's hard to like what would the 4th dimension look like in the 3rd dimension? It's like you have to imagine what the 3rd dimension looks like from the perspective of 2D. How it looks like you just like the third, like you would just be passing through, like you wouldn't be a 3-dimensional object in the 2D world because it would just be like flattened as well. Anyway, so they were saying like how would that look if you were to, what is a 4th dimension object, some sort of weird.
But yeah, there's right now a lot of UFO type
Yeah.
stuff in the news. It's all over the place right now.
Speaking of dimensions, do you remember this one? Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai
Yes,
Across the 8th
great
Dimension.
movie.
Did you ever see that one?
No.
Oh my Lord,
Ian,
Jesus.
I mean, you got
I'm sorry. That sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon. I don't know.
No, I think it was a comic book that they turned
Probably
into a
okay.
movie, and
Okay.
it was a really good movie. But it was about the John Lithgow was in it,
Yeah.
and some other notable people of the time was in it, and that was just a great one. The Eighth Dimension.
Yep.
So,
Buckaroo Banzai.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And the movie I recommended to you, Ian, was AI. I think
Yes,
Steven
yes.
Spielberg, and I'm telling you that movie was incredible, and it really touches you. It makes you think about consciousness and what, once AI reaches consciousness.
Right.
How do we define that? How do we interact with that? Interesting topics that the movie brings up.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Your comment about adventures of whomever it was you just said.
Buckaroo
Buckaroo
Banzai.
Banzai.
It just reminded me of the guy from Fallout. It was the adventurer Herbert Daring Dashwood.
Yes.
His companion Argyle.
Yeah.
So the second he said that, that's what I thought of. It's just this radio show. That's what it sounded like. Anyways.
Good stuff. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
So you would go.
I would probably go. Yeah, I
Would
mean,
you have any conditions or anything?
Well,
that
as I
you
said, not that I know if I'm going to be the lunch, or I'm going to be operated on
Or
and
the
all
road-
that. Right. I don't want to be a lab rat. I mean, if nobody wants to do that, but
You'd be surprised.
I don't want to be a lab rat, Ian.
Well,
no, I'm saying that.
I hate
you
to say
you said
this.
nobody wants
Okay,
to do that.
I hate to say this, but in a past episode, if X-Man was here, he would have brought up the fact that
No. I don't want to be a snack. I don't. That's
he
not what I'm
not
talking
only
about.
don't want to be a snack, but
Yeah, I think I remember
X-Man
that
found
episode.
out that Ian wanted to have alien sex.
I have a friend of mine. I have a friend of mine that was like, I want to be abducted by an alien, whole 9 yards. And I was like, why? And he's like, I don't know.
Well, that's kind of weird.
Wait, that's what I'm saying. And I was like, buddy, what are you? Anyways, we won't get into all that. But you just said
I want to be. I mean, who
that's
wants
what
to be abducted?
You said nobody wants to be.
Apparently, one person.
I was
does.
gonna say,
Obviously,
yeah.
well, there's
Right.
exceptions to every rule.
That's what I was saying.
Mhm.
Just throwing it out there.
I don't know. That's,
Anyways,
yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated with space and the universe, and I
The
know
unknown things you haven't seen before.
I know there's life out there. It's just, to me, I've just always found that just very interesting.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so, what
That's
about
cool.
you, Stoney?
I would want to go, but my condition would be Miranda would have to go with me. I wouldn't want to do anything without her. If we could go, bounce, we're gone, poof.
Interesting.
Yep. And I wouldn't give it much thought. I just think that would be fascinating. I think, like you said, there's so many things out there to see and experience that no human being has yet. I think that would be just an amazing adventure, whether it be 6 months, 10 years, whatever. As long as I could do it with Miranda, I would do it.
That's awesome. Man, I guess what I'm trying to think about this in an even on Earth. Is there anything like that? Like if you were to go, instead of being an alien, would you go, if someone was to offer to just go take you away to a different country for a period of time?
Are they paying for everything?
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Well, that would be one of my conditions.
That would be a biggie. I mean,
Yeah.
who's putting the resources
Right.
out to do this?
Right.
Are they dropping me off like Survivor? Probably not.
Yeah.
No.
Would you be on a stranded island?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir. As
Okay,
long as
okay.
I'm with Miranda, yes. Come back in a year.
Wow, there you go.
Miranda, I hope you're hearing this.
Yep.
That's a pretty big
I don't know if I
decision.
want to be on a deserted island all by myself.
I mean,
I
no.
mean-
Well, that's why I said I don't want to go by myself, but if
that
I
would
can
kinda,
go with
that
Miranda,
kind of reminds me of that movie Outcast with Tom
Oh,
Hanks.
such a
man.
good movie.
It was a great movie, but I mean, gee, how depressing.
said.
Well, so I was going to.
I mean, I can't imagine just being on an island by yourself and just staring out into open water constantly, and there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't like that.
I mean, what do you
this
do?
is what's
mean,
interesting is I'm not super scared right now of space. I know it's partially because I haven't actually been out into space, but like large bodies of water, no, thank you. I'm not a really big fan of large, just open water.
I'm gonna
If
tell
you're
you,
just on a
water,
boat,
open water can be
it's terrifying.
That's scary.
And like I said, it may be more scary right now because I've actually experienced it, and like I haven't experienced space. I may go out into space and go like, oh no, you know what I mean?
I got caught. I remember as I had to have been in freshman in high school, maybe. My dad and we went on a deep sea fishing trip.
Oh no.
and I'm telling you, we got caught in the outer bands of a hurricane. And the storm was bouncing all over. They didn't know where it was going to go. We'd go here one day and flip back, go the other way. But we got caught in one of the outer bands, and we had to beach a boat on a barrier island.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad it got. And I'm going to tell you, that's scary. That water, once it gets angry, that's a scary sight. So I can only imagine people out in the open ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, my father used to tell me when he was in the military on those transport ships, and they'd run across those typhoons in the South Pacific, there's mountains of water.
Yeah.
I mean,
Crazy.
that would that would be scary. I mean,
I've seen
you just little blob of metal in the water.
You're just this massive ship, just absolutely
wood.
dwarfed.
Or wood.
Yeah.
But at least wood, you think, floats.
Right.
Metal, by its nature, doesn't float.
I've seen like clips of those like crabbing vessels, the crabbing ships where they just like are on these like crazy storms, and I'm like, there's no way I
what was that movie with the Perfect Storm?
Oh yeah.
Saw that the
crazy.
What was that boat that disappeared? I can't think of the name of it right now.
I don't know.
I can't think of space being any more forgiving.
It should probably be worse.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, one thing I thought was interesting, I recently saw something on like YouTube or whatever about like in the International Space Station, they deliberately, this guy went out into like the middle of this like open corridor area to try and like maneuver himself around to try and like get like to something, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, obviously there's no gravity, at least in the space station that he was in, and so to think about that, like you can't, it's not like water where you can just like swim and like and there's like resistance to kind of like push you forward and make inertia happen. So he's like wiggling himself around trying to like move to like grab onto something, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, that has to be probably one of the most terrifying things, is if you somehow are in space and you lose your grip on whatever like is tethering you to safety. At that point, it's like, especially if you get pushed, because then you're just going to keep, there's nothing to inhibit you. You're just going to keep on going.
That's right.
And you're just going to, and eventually,
you'll interact with somebody. And
right.
Gravity will, whatever, take
Yeah.
over. And yeah, there's nothing to stop you out there.
That's crazy. So that was what I started thinking about, that it may not be the vastness of space that is terrifying, but just the lack of anything, lack of gravity, anything grounding you.
You think about it, there's no up, there's no down.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing. I mean, you're just like in this void.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And I think one of the other things about space is sound.
Oh, yeah.
They have this room, I think it's in New York City.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And the
anechoic chamber?
Yes.
Yeah.
To where there's no sound. And they say no one can stay in this room longer than an hour. And I'm like, put me in it. Put me in it. But I don't think they've had anybody been able to stay in it. It completely is negative sound. There's nothing that you can hear in this room. And I wonder if space is kind of like that in a certain way. Now, I know that some of the guys, the astronauts have said that it sounds different just because of the way it carries across the air molecules and stuff. But space, there's no sound. There's nothing.
It's crazy.
No, there's no atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing for the sound waves to move through.
Right.
that's what I was saying as well. There's nothing you can't like do the doggy paddle to get back to where you're going.
I don't understand. And I apologize that I really, to our listeners out there, I do not know how sound waves work off the top of my head, and why we hear things on Earth versus we don't hear any things in space. I'm sure there's a pretty good scientific explanation of what that is. I don't know if it has something to do with our atmosphere. We could always Google it.
Right. But the one thing I can say is my very like layman understanding of it all is it's all like vibrations and stuff, and how your ear picks that up, and like you're saying, movements of air is how
air,
and the fact
I think the air,
lack of things.
It travels from molecule to molecule, and that could even be water molecules.
Right.
So it just travels differently through air, travels differently through water, travels differently through the wall. It's just like Ian said, it's a vibration that goes through there, and your ear picks it up a certain way. And but in space, there's nothing for it to go.
And I think another thing too, from what I've learned, at least from being a musician in a lot of ways, and studying sound and in numerous capacities, is everything around you also vibrates sympathetically.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's why sometimes if you ever are like listening to music loud enough in your car, sometimes your car will rumble harder at certain notes, because it is like it's either matching it or being like the complete opposite of it or whatever, and making it rumble a certain way. And I think that's also maybe something too, is like if the sound isn't able to pass through air and also help resonate with the things that may sound differently than what I think that's why things in water I think sound severely differently. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know that much about it. I just know how to make bands sound good. I don't know what I got. So,
and podcasts.
And podcasts. That has a lot to do with it as well.
So, Stoney, you say unless Miranda can go with you, you would not go on the tour of the universe?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say a tour of the galaxy.
Tour wherever.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't go to Florida without Miranda, unless it's work related and they say you got to go. But if I can't do it without Miranda, I'm not interested in doing it.
Mm.
I'm sure Miranda appreciates that.
I hope so. Look at everything I'm giving up just to stay with her.
Right. Giving up the universe.
Yeah, and I wonder, hopefully she feels the same about me, right?
Right.
Oh, well, it looks like I'm the only one that's willing to
like I said, it just for me, I'm maybe later in life. Right now, I'm too busy. I got too many things
I'm
too busy. I got too many things I'm doing that actually, like, I kind of have been enjoying to do.
Universe.
You're right.
Think of the podcast we could have.
Just think of, that's what I'm saying. You could be the only person in human history.
I could be a legend
in human history that has seen things no one else has seen.
You're right, and I've taken that into consideration. Like I said,
as long as you're not a snack.
That's why you're right. There's a lot, like I was saying before at the top of this question. There's a lot of hypotheticals. There's a lot of clarifying questions I have before, like, we get to like the potential yes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So for me, it's like the messiness of what would require a yes makes it difficult for me to just full send it.
And I understand that. Yeah. I mean, I do.
At least that's where I come from. Like I said, if there's some guaranteed things that are like, no, you're going to be safe. We're going to be able to get you back here in like a reasonable amount of time. You're going to see some beautiful things and come back. I'll be like, heck yeah, let's go. But if there's a lot of like, well, you may get turned inside out in the process of going there and coming back. I'm like, I think I'm all right. You know what I mean?
I would think if they bring you, I would think the aliens would have enough. Their technology would be where your body would be safe.
But do they know the human body though?
Well, that's the key. They don't know. I mean, it's
they can only assume.
They've kidnapped enough human beings.
Now I say that, like, going home tonight, when I leave this place, I don't want to get abducted by some alien now, you know. That's not the way I envision that happening, but you never know.
Who knows? Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. Might happen.
It just might happen. That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's some other, like, we're talking about like this big topic of decisions. I was thinking about what other big decisions, like something that is in that same vein. Like I had said potentially a little while ago about like making a big decision on Earth, like, you know, getting sent off to an abandoned island or something. Is there any other kind of big hypothetical decisions you would have to make like that, where you have to be really? I'm not turning this into like what is it called? Whatever.
I'm trying to think.
Would you rather kind of thing? I'm not trying to turn it into that.
I'm just trying to think of what other situations that would equal what.
I mean, it's kind of hard to overshadow seeing the universe.
Top the universe, because I mean, Earth is just a small little speck,
right,
in this vast universe.
The only kind of funny story I have that I was gonna add was talking about not liking large bodies of water, but I was considering getting my boating license because I'm gonna go on vacation in like a month or so, and I was gonna rent a boat, like rent a pontoon boat to like go like cruise around in.
And
you have to have a license
for that.
I'm pretty sure you do. To rent one.
Okay, let's narrow it down. Let's not say the universe. Say a trip around the world.
I could make time for that.
Depending on where, and depending
on. It would only be you.
It would only be me.
Right. Someone would take you and say only you can go around the world
in 80 days.
Would you? You know, how would you explain that to your? You know.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
I would try. If I didn't have to like really,
even if your significant other would get upset, or would you still do it?
Well, I mean that would be hard. I know for a fact she would get upset if I wanted to go see the world without her.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what makes the decision.
Yeah.
You know, bring it down at scale a little bit.
Right.
And you're gonna be coming home.
If it wasn't
gonna be a while.
If it wasn't gonna put me in like a financial burden, I would consider it. Yeah.
No money.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost you zero money. You can just go, but you can only go by yourself. Would you do it?
It's a tentative yes, but don't tell Mallory.
I stand by my. I've waited almost 60 years for Miranda.
Right.
And if I can't do it with her, it's not worth doing it.
There you go.
If it's not something I can't tell her about, it's not worth doing. I want to share it all with her. And if I can, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down for just about anything.
There you go.
But she's got to be part of it.
Interesting. What about you?
I'm thinking about.
I
would go.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I'm in a little bit different boat than y'all two are right now.
Right.
So while I do have people that I love, I don't have someone attached to me. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I got a good one.
Ian?
Let's say hypothetically something was to happen and you got to go like into witness protection.
I was just thinking
I was
that.
Gonna say,
we must be on the same wavelength there.
I was going to say, it's like, let's say for instance, like would you just start over if given the opportunity? Would like, let's say like you had to relocate. Let's say you had to that's a big thing right there.
Or if you had to go into witness protection to protect your loved one.
Oh, there you go.
Now that throws a little angle on that kind of decision going, I'm doing this because I love you.
Right.
And I'm doing it to protect you. Because if I don't do this, there's a high probability you're probably going to get killed.
We're talking about some secret agent stuff here.
Yeah, we're talking about real cloak and dagger stuff here.
Right.
You know, would you do it?
Right.
Would you do it?
I took a joy.
Now that takes it a little bit different.
I took a joyride with some aliens, and now I have to go undercover because I am wanted for doing some nefarious deeds.
The government wants you.
The government wants you.
They want
bad.
to know what you saw.
Yeah, and you have to. Your family has to forge your death.
Well, they wouldn't know. Or I'd say they wouldn't know. Maybe look, you've got to make the decision. I mean,
I see.
You got to do it now. You can't. You've got to get out of here. now.
Interesting.
Because if you don't, as long as you're with this other person, that other person's a target.
Right. Man, that's hard.
And the only way for that person to be free is for you to disappear.
Wow.
Now that's a whole different.
Man.
That's a whole different story.
Right.
Yeah, really, that's love
It
comes
really-
into play. I mean, you
Really
know,
spicens up
be
the stew.
willing to let someone go because
Can I
that's
just
what's
fake
best
my
for 'em.
death and get a little face surgery and just stay.
Yeah. We're looking for Stoney. No, this is John. This is Craig. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a guy.
Well, you know,
Just a dude.
we've been talking about all these movie allusions to some
Yeah,
of these
yeah,
topics in this
Face Off.
episode. What was the episode? I mean, movie that what's his name? Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds was in where he was an FBI agent, and it was a kind of a shoot it up type movie.
I'm not aware of it.
I can't think of it right now. Where
You're also asking the wrong guy here.
The theme of it was it come to be some former FBI agent that went undercover, deep undercover, and he got
No, wait.
surgically all. I'm trying. What's that movie? I have to look it up.
Well, there was one with John Travolta called Face Off,
No,
where
this
they took
is
his
not
face
it.
off and put it on somebody else. That was a good movie.
Let's see.
Do Ryan Reynolds. Google Ryan Reynolds shoot it up movie because
Shoot it up movie.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those crazy movies. But I it occasionally comes on TV.
Is it called Criminal?
No.
I don't know. I typed in Secret Agent Ryan Reynolds and it just came up with Criminal.
Ryan Reynolds movies.
I was joking around with him saying I'm the worst person to ask because I have a podcast about comedically I haven't seen a lot of movies, and so I have a podcast where I watch movies with my best friend and we both talk about them called The Aftermath. And that is
I'm going to find it. But it was kind of one of those kind of crazy movies where it was a bunch of assassins gathering up in Las Vegas.
I see what you mean.
And I just, it's going to drive me crazy now until I find it.
Just wait. Well, once we hit stop recording.
Yeah, once we hit stop
You'll
recording,
figure
it's
it out.
probably not going to, I'll probably find it and go, yeah, there it is.
Well,
But great movie, though.
okay. Well, is there anything else you guys want to touch on? Any kind of big decisions you guys are going to make this week coming up?
Well, I'm gonna be running that half marathon, so
Oh, fun.
I'll be doing a lot of thinking while I'm running.
I just recently bought, I didn't get a chance to show you guys, but we can on the way out. I bought some new syrups. I bought more coffee beans. So my espresso bar is growing. I bought a bunch of stuff.
What kind of shoes do you use when you run?
I like Newton. Newton running is I got hooked on those shoes some years ago. A friend of mine, she got me on them, and I had never used them before. So all my running shoes are Newtons.
Okay.
And I just like the way they feel. I feel like I have a really good spring in my step when I'm in them.
Wow.
And
Youthful invigoration.
yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna be hurting. I mean that 13.1 miles is. I'll feel it.
I bet.
I'm gonna feel it the next day.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I will. I mean, it's just the reality of it.
Right.
But this will be my last. This will be my last half until September.
Wow. Okay. So you got
So
little hiatus.
I'll do some smaller ones. Smaller races, 5Ks and stuff like that.
right.
I got do a 5K, do a 10K, but halves are like I couldn't even imagine doing a full marathon. I know how I feel after 13.1.
Oh, yeah?
I can only imagine if I know I had another 13.1 miles to go.
Wow.
I mean
That's how much a full is?
26,
Oof.
26.2.
Mm-hmm.
I bet there's like a threshold where like you kind of like once you you kind of cross over, I guess.
Well, they say half marathons are physical, full marathons are mental, because that's a long time running.
Yeah.
I mean, I said it takes me probably just under 2 hours to do a half. So you think you're running for almost 2 hours?
Let's say generously 4.5 hours for a full marathon.
Well, then you'd be probably almost be picked up. I mean, I don't know how long they usually give people to run full marathons because they're time limits.
Really? Oh, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, you're blocking roads. I mean, you got law enforcement out there, so there's a certain time element that everything has to be wrapped up where they can open streets back up again.
Wow.
So if you can't, I would venture to say, you probably not knock it out by 5 hours, I would think.
Yeah.
Could it go longer than that? I don't know, because every race is kind of different. But
there's a lot to that. When you do like the Boston Marathon,
you're
shutting down a city.
Right, you got to qualify. That's why
the whole day, really, if you think about it, just all of the people coming to watch it and the runners and.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you've got to be able to finish it within a certain time frame. Otherwise, they won't. And I even heard in some places, I mean, there's cars trailing behind the last person, and if certain time, then they'll just pick you up and bring you back. If you're not
Wow.
Yeah, if you're not finished.
That's crazy.
Oh, I found that movie.
Yeah?
Smoking Aces.
I've heard that movie before.
Smoking Aces.
Never seen it.
Yeah, there's another movie for
Aftermath.
Aftermath.
Okay.
So,
the average full marathon run time, this is the average, is 4 hours, 29 minutes, and 53 seconds.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't saying being a generous 4:30.
Now, that's the average. There could be some people doing a little bit better.
That's what I was
some
saying.
Doing it way on the other end.
And they may give 6 hours. I don't know. I don't really be honest. Don't know what these races give.
You're right, though. I can't imagine running for like 2 to 4 hours straight. That's got to be insane.
And it is 26.2 miles.
Yep. And believe me, I've got some friends that run longer than that. 50-mile races.
How,
60-mile races. They literally start the night before, and they run all night long.
How do you just keep going?
They keep going.
Like the Energizer Bunny.
You got people that like that kind of stuff. They call them ultra marathoners.
Now, the world record is 1 hour and 59 minutes for a marathon.
For a full marathon?
For a full marathon.
No freaking way.
Yep. October 14th, 2019. A guy from Kenya.
I figured that. Mm-hmm. Yep. They are the fastest runners in the world.
Shaving off 3 hours? Holy crap!
Well, that is really 2.
That is you're knocking a mile out in what 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that, which is just it just blows
superhuman almost.
That's that's incredible. I can't even imagine.
It just is crazy.
You know what? That I guess they're breaking it down. Say 2 hours. It's the pace is 4 minutes and 37 seconds
for a mile.
For a mile.
Oh my God. I can't even wrap my mind around that.
The best mile I've ever done was like 7 minutes and 20 seconds. I can't even imagine. What did you say, Stoney?
4 something.
4 something?
4.5 minutes.
That just, I don't even know how you even, I couldn't, my body would just fall apart. Doing that.
That sounds like a lot of like training and conditioning and
it is a lot of training and conditioning. It's as I said, when you start getting those kind of distances, it's mental. It's a mental game.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you do have to train. You have to prepare your body physically, but I have no desire.
The only thing I've ever done like long-term physically like that is like long sessions of playing music.
Right.
I have played like as like a fill-in bass player for a few bands, and like almost consecutively like played for 3 to 4 hours, and was like my hands were on another level at that point. But I've never done anything physical like that where I'm like, pushing my body. I mean, anyways, so that's, but the only thing I've done like that where it's like, that I'm thinking of that, I remember getting a majority way through that and was like, oh man, I'm getting tired right now.
Yeah, I like to, I just like to stay active.
Of course.
I just do. I mean, I don't want to.
I'm tired listening to him talk about running a marathon. I think my leg just started cramping up. So. I'm just listening.
I was never really a runner. I mean, it was really, I could say in the last 10 years, I've probably really been running. Prior to that, it was just really weightlifting. Did a lot of weights.
Yeah. I mean, you told me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, eventually just.
I told you
the doctor just simply said, look, you need to kind of balance this out. You need to do a little cardio work too. And probably that's more important the older you get than actually being muscular.
I've told you personally, I was the opposite. I still even am in a certain degree. I don't need more cardio, but I love doing it, and I was always really good at it. Of just like running or keeping up pace or keeping my heart moving like that. I because of my physicality, my build, I needed to like do some resistance training, but I never really did. So, anyways. Well, this was a fun episode, full of decisions, full of stuff.
Decisions and just kind of random things that we talked about.
It was a fun episode. Like Stoney said earlier, we had some real hard hitters there for a second, and I'm glad that this one was one that we could just kind of sit back and talk a little bit. Everyone could take a nice deep breath.
Just for the record, cardio is the #1 rule in the Zombieland rule list. Cardio.
Right, there you go.
Double tap is #2. Cardio is #1. I'm just saying.
I see.
Run.
Yes, endurance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for any of you listeners out there that want to send us some suggestions or want to just talk to us and reach out to us, we have a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, or you can just type in Retrospect Pod on anything really and you should be able to find us, or any of your major podcasting platforms. But anyways, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. God bless.
You're the best. Peace.